Hi, I'm Clay, and if I were a fucking nerd, I'd tell you that you should definitely check out the book The Immortal Hulk. Currently being published by Marvel Comics and is written by Al Ewing. If I were a fucking nerd, I would tell you that it is my favorite take on the Hulk. I was never really big into Hulk comics. I was never big into any comics because I'm not a fucking nerd. But if I were a fucking nerd, I'd tell you I'd never really been into Hulk comics. I thought they were kind of boring and blunt and personality-less. Like, Hulk just fights generic monsters. His villains aren't that iconic. If I were a fucking nerd, I'd think that, but I'm not a fucking nerd, so I don't know what to tell you other than it's a body horror take on the Hulk. And despite having a lot of references to the old Hulk stories, I was able to read it as a first time really Hulk reader, and it made me want to go back and read comics that I wasn't that into originally and see if I could find something hidden within. And I discovered Peter David's run, and if I were a fucking nerd, I tell you that this is the second best Hulk run. I don't know why I went through almost all of them, but I did. This isn't a video on that, though. I want you to read Immortal Hulk so that I can make some content on 49 and 50 and link back to this video so I can tell you my thoughts and opinions on the series as a whole before the finale hits. Because we're only 2 months away, I believe. And if I were a fucking nerd, I'd tell you that you should definitely read this book. Read it now. There's a lot to it. It's got themes of corporate greed. It's got themes of... It's just great. It's got themes of environmental consciousness. If I were a fucking nerd, I'd tell you that it's got questions about death, the end of the Marvel Universe. It shows the true power that Bruce Banner's alter egos hold. If I were a fucking nerd, I would tell you that. But I'm not a fucking nerd. I'm a man. And so I'm just going to tell you, books are for nerds!